Salute, 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 ATP. What it do? It's your boy Claymore Rain back at you guys with another one, man. Shout out to all my subscribers. Now, if this is your first time tapping into the content, I am going to invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit your bell icons as well, so you are getting alerts when all this content is dropping. So it's been a while. I'm trying to get a little more consistent on dropping this content this way. A lot of my subscribers are saying, come on, Claymore, drop more of these short takes that you have on certain things going on in the game. I've been busy. I've been moving around, things going on, personal life. Can't wait for this thing to become my full-time job. But until then, I'm squeezing it in where I can. But I appreciate all the support and appreciate all the feedback and the engagement that I'm receiving from the subscribers of the channel. And we're working on making this a better experience every time we jump on here. But look, let's talk about it and get straight into it. David Benavidez heading to Riyadh season, February 22nd. You guys know the card of all cards, right? This is supposed to be a card that is a card that's supposed to be the best of all cards that is dropped in decades, to say the least, right? Decades, to say the least. Let me put the volume down just a little bit here. To say the least, and David Benavidez coming off the back end of a great victory over David Morrell, a fight that was tailor-made. Well, I don't want to say tailor-made, but just to say that David Benavidez did put this fight together himself. Him and his team and Samson Leakowitz. These guys came together. At first, if you guys don't remember, going back down memory lane, David Benavidez went ahead and was supposed to fight Jesse Hart, if you guys remember that correctly. Days went by. We can go back maybe a week or so before that fight was actually announced, when David Benavidez actually put it out there that he was going to have his team reach out to David Morrell's team to go ahead and coordinate a fight. Now, you guys know David Morrell and David Benavidez had a history about supposedly were supposed to fight each other ever since 168, but David Benavidez, of course, tied up with the idea of fighting Canelo Alvarez to become an undisputed champion. We know how that panned out. We don't have to make that a long, drawn-out story. But ultimately, what ended up happening was David Benavidez made his move to 175, and the PBC seemed to have responded to that move. Looking for dance partners for David Benavidez at 175 was always an interesting conversation from the PBC standpoint. I didn't really see the fighters that were there that were going to be lined up for David Benavidez, especially at this point where he's at in his career trying to make the biggest fight. So naturally, it looks like, from the outside looking in, just my perspective, it just looked like the PBC sent David Morrell and said, you might as well go up there as well. Even for David Morrell, an opportunity for him. If you go up there, get in the conversation, potentially get in the way, what we'll do is we'll line you up and give both you guys opportunities at some titles. Turki Al-Sheikh, if you guys remember, David Benavidez reached out to Turki Al-Sheikh, or maybe he didn't reach out. He put a statement out on an interview and then humbly asked Turki Al-Sheikh to intervene and help him coordinate a fight with, at the time, Canelo Alvarez, the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. Canelo asking for 150 to 200 million to make that fight happen with David Benavidez, saying that all he brought to the table was 25 pounds. Turki responded, said, listen, I'm not really interested in doing that. That's way too much money. I'm not going to pay Canelo Alvarez that much money for that fight. But I'll tell you what, you come up to light heavyweight, go ahead and compete. The winner of the match, I believe, between him and Alexander Vosnik would be for an interim WBC title. And Turki promised him, listen, the winner of Better Beef Bivol, I'll put you in position to challenge at what we know now to be an undisputed championship that currently Beterbiev has. Now, how ironic that now they're going to go for their rematch now, where Beterbiev won the first fight. They're going for their rematch February 22nd, headlining this historic card where, once again, there'll be a decision. Either Beterbiev will continue to be the undisputed light heavyweight champion or, lose to Bivol. Either way, Turki said, listen, you'll be in line to fight the winner of that fight and get an opportunity to become undisputed. Now, if you guys have been hiding under a rock, I'll get you up to speed to say that in between that time period, David Morrell has had two fights at the light heavyweight division, right? One being against Alexander Vosnik, and of course, this second fight that he ended up having with David Morrell. Now, David Benavidez put this fight together himself. In other words, this wasn't the fight that his handlers at the PBC was trying to coordinate for him. He had to actually retract his words when information came out that he was actually going to be fighting Jesse Hart. David Benavidez having to apologize to the fan base and say, listen, my bad. It looks like this is who I'm going to be fighting, Jesse Hart, but slept on it, thought about it. Him and his team came together and said, man, F that. I don't want to fight Jesse Hart. I want to make the biggest fights possible. Even though I'm in line right now to fight for an undisputed light heavyweight title, getting the winner of these guys, I want to stay busy and I don't want to disappoint my fans anymore. It's time to build my own legacy, right? It's time to be a little hands-on with my own career. Very similar to, let's say, an Errol Spence did with Terrence Crawford, right? I could just go the easy route and just take these fights that my handlers want me to take. My fans will probably still love me for it, but how much respect would I have for myself? And ultimately, I'm still trying to prove a point. I haven't been able to do that with Canelo Alvarez because he wouldn't fight me. I'm going to take this opportunity. You guys think that David Morrell happens to be the perfect matchup for me. Stylistically, you think this is the fight that'll be difficult for me. I happen to think differently, but let me go ahead and put my money where my mouth is. He reaches out to David Morrell's team and he puts this fight together. You guys saw the fight on February 1st. David Benavidez showed out, right? Not necessarily dominating, but really showed presence, showed he had that beard on him, showed that he had the skills, that he had a jab, that he was able to keep up with David Morrell's athleticism, that he'd be able to overwhelm him. His conditioning was there, and that David Morrell was going to ultimately end up getting drowned in the latter rounds in that fight. Kudos and shout out to David Morrell for lasting 12 rounds in that fight, having his moments, and ultimately being the best dance partner for David Benavidez. What an event it was, what a fight it was, a showcase fight, packed out T-Mobile Arena. David Benavidez, a lot of people after this fight calling him an up-and-coming star, face of boxing accolades that they're giving David Benavidez right now at this moment. So Turki Al-Sheikh sees that and says, listen, you did a great job. I told you I got you lined up for the winner of Better Beef Bivol 2. I'm going to invite you to come out to Riyadh season. Come out there, come experience the atmosphere. Come see how the country loves boxing. Come see how we treat our boxers. Come get some of this treatment and let's chop it up and figure out where we're going to get you in here to make this fight happen. Now, if you guys know Turki Al-Sheikh, not to say I know him, but one thing I know through the history of Turki Al-Sheikh is he won't waste an opportunity to do business with these fighters when he can get them alone. It's difficult, I'm sure, for him to get directly to these fighters. They have handlers, management, you know, firewalls up there to make it difficult to do what Turki loves to do. If you know Turki, he loves to work directly with the fighters. What an opportunity is in front of him to have David Benavidez at this event. He'll be able to conversate with David Benavidez, and one can only imagine what kind of conversation they'll be having. Where is David Benavidez right now in his career? Well, he's finally got to that place to where he's on the verge of becoming a star. Some people might consider him a star already, right? Maybe he's already there, but if he's not there, he's pretty much 1 or 2 fights away from becoming a legitimate face of boxing. And you guys know Turki Al-Sheikh, he loves to get involved in making the best fights that he can make. He has a lot of opportunities with these fighters. He pays second to none purses, right? His purses are the best purses in the game right now. Right now, if you want to get to the money, unless you're somebody like, let's say, a Gervonta Tank Davis or maybe a Canelo Alvarez, and I had to take a moment right there and smile at that moment because we're going to bring Canelo Alvarez into this conversation as well. But look, David Benavidez heading to Riyadh season to go ahead and witness and see the fight between Better Beef Bivol. Maybe he'll walk into the ring, challenge the winner. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But his presence is going to be there. Turki Al-Sheikh is not a by coincidence type of person. Nothing is done by chance. Everything is a chess move. Everything is strategic. He'll get an opportunity to get David Benavidez's ear in Riyadh season, talking to him about this fight, but also potentially talking to him about other fights, right? Where is David Benavidez right now in his career? He's in a point right now where he's built himself up some momentum, and he's finally gotten there. And right now at this moment, off the momentum of that last fight he had a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, about a week, let's say 2 weeks ago, it's going to be real important for David Benavidez to capitalize off this momentum that he's built up for himself. He has to be active. Now, you guys know David Benavidez is with the PBC. So the PBC last year having only 5 events, this event in particular being an event that rumor has it, Samson Leakowitz had to get hands-on with this to put this together, not to mention David Benavidez's role in coordinating that fight with David Morrell. Look, they've been pretty much keeping their careers in their own hands and making some decisions. David Benavidez showing the world and showing and proving that he's willing to go ahead and make those hard decisions if need be. He may have another hard decision in front of him, because at 175 pounds right now, it looks like the opportunity is in Turki's hands. David Benavidez's opportunity to actually become not only a legitimate champion, right, but an undisputed champion, revolves around his ability to negotiate something that makes sense with Turki Al-Sheikh. Now, let's bring this back a little bit. I told you guys a little bit earlier, Canelo Alvarez, and I had to take a minute to smile about it because you guys saw what happened with Canelo Alvarez last week as negotiations fell apart, came back to fell apart, right? Fell apart twice in a way, fell apart between Turki and Canelo as far as coordinating his fight with Terrence Bud Crawford in September, but also fell apart again, being that Canelo Alvarez looked like he had left that negotiation to go back to negotiate with the PBC and Jake Paul to put a fight together in May where it was going to be Canelo Alvarez versus Jake Paul. The whole space went crazy off, and I know I definitely did, but turns out within 48 hours of that first announcement off Ring Magazine that it turns out within that 48 hour, sorry you guys about that connection, turns out about 48 hours after the release of that information that Turki was able to square away a deal with Canelo Alvarez for now a 4-fight deal that was once a 3-fight deal, end up being a 4-fight deal, left that situation alone. A big piece on the board was moved over to Turki Al-Sheikh's side of the conversation now that we see Canelo Alvarez no longer working with the PBC, but now exclusively has a 4-fight deal with Turki Al-Sheikh in Riyadh season for who knows how many hundreds of millions of dollars is on the table. Now Turki has a big piece on the board in his hand. What is he going to do with it? David Benavidez has always wanted to fight Canelo Alvarez. The boxing space knows that potentially the biggest fight that could possibly be made today in boxing, if not hands down the biggest fight that could be made in boxing, would be against Canelo Alvarez and David Benavidez. You guys know Canelo Alvarez, not really interested in making that fight, says that David Benavidez only brings 25 more pounds into the ring. Well, against David Morrell, he didn't bring those 25 pounds to the ring. He brought his 2 hands. He brought a high pedigree, skill set, a steel beard, and a lot of power in both hands. That put perspective as to why Canelo Alvarez probably doesn't want to get in the ring with David Benavidez. But look, for the right amount of money, anything can happen. This time last year, Canelo Alvarez was telling the whole entire boxing space how the last thing he wanted to do was fight Terrence Crawford because there was nothing in it for him. There was no legacy in it, and maybe not that much money, even though Turki Al-Sheikh was behind Terrence Crawford and putting the fight together. Here we are today. How many people would have called it that Canelo Alvarez would not only be fighting Terrence Crawford, but would actually be on a 4-fight deal with Turki Al-Sheikh? So, look, money changes a lot of things. They're prize fighters at the end of the day. Canelo Alvarez has a 4-fight deal with Turki Al-Sheikh. We know the first fight will be William Skull in May. This is an opportunity for Canelo Alvarez to recollect that IBF title that he had to vacate or be stripped of when he didn't want to fight William Skull last year. Well, now he gets to fight William Skull again, reclaim that title, making him a 2-time undisputed super middleweight champion. That he'll be taking into his fight with Terrence Crawford in September, which is supposedly rumored to be an Allegiant Arena or stadium, whatever that's called, the Raider stadium that's in Las Vegas. That's where that fight is supposed to take place. That fight will have Undisputed online and be a huge fight. And then he has 2 more fights on the deal that are supposed to be sometime in 2026. Rumors going around of Bruno Saras, Jamel Charlo, the winner of Better Beef Bivol, potentially Bivol again. Who knows? But how about this? Interestingly enough, if David Benavidez is able to go ahead and coordinate this fight with the winner of Better Beef and Bivol, he'll get an opportunity at Undisputed at light heavyweight. That's interesting, because who holds the keys of the city to make a bigger fight between David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez than Turki Al-Sheikh? That's where all the fights that David Benavidez wants are at. And now you have Undisputed light heavyweight potentially around David Benavidez's waist. That even increases the reward that Canelo Alvarez has outside of making the most money he's ever made, which he's already locked in with Turki. Now you put a 4-belt, 2-weight class, 3-time undisputed, 2-weight class undisputed champion for Canelo Alvarez. What does that do for his legacy? And this might be the biggest fight of the era if Canelo Alvarez is able to get this fight, accept this fight, and put this fight together with David Benavidez. There's opportunity here for David Benavidez to get what he wants as well, and maybe not even have to cut the weight back down to 168 to make the fight happen. It can become very interesting, to say the least, but obviously one step at a time, right? Let's see what happens. David Benavidez travels the Riyadh season on February 22nd. We'll see who wins between Better Beef and Bivol. even if Better Beef and Bivol, let's say Bivol wins the fight and there's a third fight, there's a trilogy, which Turki Al-Sheikh has communicated that if Better Biev lost the fight and wanted his rematch, he'd be more than happy to facilitate that. Even then, David Benavidez has opportunities to fight at 175 pounds with the likes of a Caleb Smith or Buatsi. Once again, right up the alley of Turki Al-Sheikh and his relationships that he's built with Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, right? Soon to be Bob Arum, Oscar De La Hoya. He has the whole world at his fingertips. You got the biggest purses. You got the biggest movement in boxing right now behind making some of the biggest fights possible. David Benavidez may be confronted with some of the hardest decisions he's ever had to make come February 22nd, based on the conversation he has with Turki Al-Sheikh, based on the conversations he's able to have when he gets back to talk to the PBC. David Benavidez already has been hands-on with putting a fight like David Morrell together, understanding that his career was the most important thing and not allowing his handlers to slow him down or to give him a bunch of filler fights. Will David Benavidez have the courage to make the hardest decision he has to make for his career, potentially on February 22nd? Now, on another note, this may be also the bridge that needs to be built between the PBC and Riyadh season. The PBC, the only one out of the major promotional companies who are not over there working hand in hand with Turki Al-Sheikh. I mean, they've done some collaborations back in LA when Turki Al-Sheikh did his event in Los Angeles with Terrence Crawford and Israel Madrimov headlined that card. We had like 3 PBC fighters on that card. I mean, ultimately, this is where Rayo Venezuela became a 140-pound WBA champion by beating Isaac Cruz, right? We also saw David Morello on that card, fight on that card as well. So we've seen PBC fighters work with Turki Al-Sheikh, or we've seen the PBC work with Turki Al-Sheikh. I believe at that event, Lou DeCubas was sitting right there next to Turki Al-Sheikh as well, right next to Turki, Bob Arum, Eddie Hearn, right? Oscar De La Hoya, all those promoters were sitting right there next to Turki Al-Sheikh. So there's a lot of possibilities. There are possibilities, endless possibilities here. We got to look at it, take one step at a time. The PBC looking to have a better year this year than they did last year. Rumors going around, circulating about what their relationship with Amazon Prime might be looking like towards the summertime this year, whether or not Amazon Prime is having issues with the way things are rolling out or things as far as what they expected. They've already started the year great off with a David Morrell, David Benavidez fight. They've got another fight coming up March 1st with Tank Davis headlining and fighting against Lamont Roach. Let's see what the PBC is able to do, but February 22nd is going to be a very important day on multiple levels, not to mention one of the best cards we've ever seen, but also David Benavidez taking this trip out to Riyadh season to just go ahead and see what life has to offer him out there. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section, though, because I think it's interesting. I got my eyes on it. David Benavidez on his way to Riyadh season, February 22nd, personally invited by Turki Al-Sheikh. If you guys are familiar with Turki like I am, I don't see this being a pointless trip. There'll definitely be some conversations happening, and we'll know better what comes out of those conversations a couple of weeks after this is put together. But let me know what you think in the comment section. I think this is going to be a real interesting month, interesting year in boxing, as we now see Canelo Alvarez over there with Turki Al-Sheikh, David Benavidez taking a trip out there to see what his career could look like, mixing it up with some of those fighters over there. David Benavidez said, I don't really want to fight in Riyadh as bad. He'd rather fight United States. Well, Turki has no problem facilitating that. Ring Magazine having an event, obviously, with Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford. Well, Riyadh is in September, and I believe they're having a couple of other events. From my understanding, Las Vegas in May, there's supposed to be an event as well involving Monsta anyway. So look, they're willing to work in the States. They're willing to work with these fighters where they need to be at to make the best fights. Turki seems to be very aware and conscious of that. But let's see what ends up happening, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Once again, it's your boy Rain. This is that ATP Combat Media Show. If this is your first time tapping into the content, I am going to invite you, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you're all getting alerts on all this content is dropping. It's your boy Rain. It's that ATP Combat Media Show. And at this point, we out.